Good afternoon and welcome to Virginia Tech Carilion School of Medicine. Today I'm here with Senior Dean for Student Affairs, Dr. Aubrey Knight. And we are going to discuss a little bit about what we think has contributed to our school's 100% match rate for residency. Dr. Knight, can you tell me a little bit, please, about what career advising means and how that happens here at Virginia Tech Carilion?
Sure. So career advising is a process that begins almost from day one. A student comes into medical school expecting that someday they're going to be a doctor, and in being a doctor, it's not a process that everyone does the same thing in the end. So we begin that process by training them or helping them to better understand themselves. Many of them come here either based on their previous experiences in a lab with oncology, or having been a scribe in an emergency department, knowing only one thing and thinking because they know that one thing, that's what they want to do. I encourage them early on to not necessarily pigeonhole themselves into that, but rather look at all the opportunities that exist for them.
And so what are some of the ways they could explore other fields?
So we have essentially a curriculum of career advising, and in that curriculum, beginning in the first year, they are exposed to the various clinical departments that exist here at Carilion. The chairs, the program directors, the clerkship directors will come and have a lunch with them and tell them a little bit about what it means to be, for instance, a radiologist or an orthopedic surgeon, and what your career options are in that field. They are also encouraged to shadow various specialists that might be of interest to them. And of course, the key part of any medical school's curriculum that informs students as to where they might be best suited and happiest is the third-year clerkships, when they rotate with the various primary specialties.
And do they have any access to other resources, careers in medicine, that type of thing? Yeah,
so the AAMC has a very robust resource website that entitled Careers in Medicine, and on that website there is information about the various specialties, about how does a student go about learning what might be a best fit for them. There are surveys that they take, surveys about their preferences, their styles, and comparing what their style is to what successful folks who've done similar surveys would look like. It's not intended to tell them what specialty they need to choose, but it's intended to give them a little bit more information. An informed decision requires information.
I agree. And so you mentioned that people are encouraged to shadow. Do you feel like the curriculum allows for shadowing and makes time for that?
Yes, I think we have a rigorous curriculum. There's no doubt about it. But in the history of the school, especially as the school was beginning, and we knew that we wanted our students to have the opportunity to shadow, we paid very close attention to where those opportunities existed and where the best bang for the buck as far as shadowing physicians are. So we have that information now, and we can guide students toward the right person to shadow and the right time to do that shadowing.
So it sounds like the timeline starts early, especially for students who show up and know what they want to pursue. So what about is there any type of field that you feel like our school might not be able to support if someone were interested in it?
So we have now successfully matched students into every specialty that you can match into straight out of medical school.
Okay.
This year we crossed that last threshold this year when we matched 2 students into ophthalmology. Prior to that, we've had at least 1 student in every other primary specialty.
Can you tell me about the specialty career panels, please?
So the specialty career panels are so that also is a process. So it begins, as I mentioned, with the chairs of the clinical departments coming to meet with the students, and then it progresses to the point where there are student interest groups, and then there are students who have already selected their specialty and matched into their specialty, who come back and talk to primarily the third-year students, because those are the ones that are most directly impacted by what those fourth-year students learned on the interview trail, and how they were able to decide where to apply and then how to rank.
Yes. Okay. All right. And so you mentioned interest groups. Do you have them for most specialties? How do students get involved?
We have them for essentially all specialties. It'll wax and wane because if there is no, we're a small school, and there may be a time that we have no one interested in, for instance, urology at any given time. So that student interest group may wane for a year or two until more students come up that are interested in it. But students get involved by asking to be involved. There's no required initiation into special interest groups. It does not mean that you are bound to choose that specialty.
Okay.
So there are students who have been involved in 5 or 6 different specialty interest groups over the course of their 4 years. Because they did come undifferentiated and they did want to learn more about these various specialties, so they went to the events and they became involved.
So I don't want to embarrass you, but as someone who has been on both sides of residency selection, mentoring medical students who are applying, but also being an assistant program director in a residency program, the dean's letter or the review that's written by the dean is something that is incredibly important. Your letters seem to show a really intimate knowledge of your students. You get to know each one personally. How is that possible?
It's possible because I consider that to be maybe the most important part of my job, and because we're a small school. I've got the luxury of only having to get to know 42 students per year, and I'm able to do that. If I don't know a student, it's because they have been very good at avoiding me. It's not because I have not reached out to them. And so hopefully I'm glad to hear that you say the letters do demonstrate some degree of knowledge of more than just how they performed, but rather who they are. And that's, I do take that role very seriously, that the letter begins with some personal stuff and ends with some personal stuff, and I think those are arguably the 2 most important components of the letter, because the program directors are going to read the beginning and get to know someone. Then the next 5 pages, and these letters are long, the next 5 pages kind of, there are bits and pieces that an individual program director will look at, but they typically will look at the conclusion, and that is the part that I take most seriously, and that's where I do focus on some personal experiences that I've had with that particular student.
Well, it makes a difference. I think, I'm trying to do my part to make sure we're bringing collaborative learners. You're certainly playing a huge role in ushering our students through and making sure they network, get intimate knowledge of the different types of fields they can go into, and then speaking about them on a personal level. It all goes into a 100% match rate, something that we're all very proud of here. Thank you so much for your time today,
It's been my
Dr.
pleasure. Thank you.